If you couldn't already tell, we're talking pirates today. With the release of the new Lost Caverns of Ixalan set, we've been given a surge of new pirate cards to fuel our deck synergies, and also some notable reprints which will help keep us under budget. Chatgpt was given the agency to choose whichever new commander it wanted, and as such, it challenged us to take on the brand new commander, Admiral Brass Unsinkable. This new pirate commander is a play on the existing Admiral Beckett Brass, but with more of a focus on bringing our pirates back from the dead than pilfering our opponents of their cards. Our AI friend gave us a 100 card deck that looks a little bit something like this. Let's import this new deck into Archidect to dissect what's going on. Alright, so right off the bat we have some issues. First, ChatGPT decided it would be a good idea to include extra copies of cards. Let's go ahead and fix this. We'll input the highest synergy cards as referenced by EDH Rec as a replacement. Second, we have some immediate non-bows in the lands department, with cards like Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, but no basics included. We saw something similar in our last video. ChatGPT must really be a basic hater. But I must say, despite these obvious errors, once they're corrected, we have a very flavorful deck. Tons of pirate-themed cards for our strategy. I see plenty of evasion to reliably trigger our Combat Matters strategy, and also, I rather like the protection and counter spells that were included in this list. Overall, great job, ChatGPT. But I'm not interested in correcting only the non-bows. I want to rip this deck apart. Where are we lacking? Are there better includes? What should be cut and what should stay? I want a consistent deck that's going to have a game plan you can duplicate time and time again, not just one-off wins. So let's start with the win cons of the deck and then work backwards. We're running a primarily Combat Matters style here with ways to reduce our incoming pirates, fill our board, and then use our Lord effects to pump everything for the win. And if the straightforward beatdown fails to bag us the win, our Revel in Riches enchantment just might. After all, we only need to make about 10 treasures to win the game. But the problem is quickly apparent. We only have 6 other cards that care about making treasures. And yeah, I've seen Revel in Riches make 10 treasures on its own with no additional assistance. But come on, we're pirates. Treasure's kind of our thing. And this is simply too few synergy pieces to make this Revel in Riches reliably win us the game. Additionally, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but we are running a Combat Matters style deck, and if we're not including powerful combat synergy cards like Port Raiser, then what are we doing? This guy is an all-star for the deck, especially with Helm of the Host included, but he's nowhere to be found. Also, if we're running Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator, but not the Minotaur Pirate that goes infinite with him, I would also argue that this deck is missing out on another key feature of our commander, Self-Mill. Why not include some reanimation, or perhaps a win con related to the slot? Hello, Living Death. What's more, our commander likes ways to blink her for value. We do have a single Siren's Ruse, which is a great include for us, but why not include other methods of single target protection and ETB manipulation? Although on the surface, ChatGPT's deck looks just fine, you can quickly start to see areas where it needs to shore up. Let's start with an overhaul of the creatures. I'd love the idea of including multiple flying pirates in the list to easily get through to our opponents. But for the most part, that's all these cards offer us. Minimal board presence, weak stat lines, weak ETB effects for the mana value. Let's just cut most of these. I will, however, be keeping Malcolm, the Siren, and Warkite Marauder. And as mentioned, we will certainly be including the Port Raiser to abuse those extra combat steps, triggering our commander each time. I also like the idea of some combat tricks, such as the Direfleet Poisoner. And then we have some non-pirate cards which tend to be so good that we'll be including them regardless of their card typing. Grim Hireling, Soul Diviner, Marchesa, the Black Rose, and Kiki Jiki are all going to make the final cut. Once that's all said and done, our new total of creatures is 31, with 27 that are pirates. I'm not a huge fan of cards that just say you win the game, so we're going to say goodbye to Revel in Riches. Likewise, although it's part of a 2-card combo, I think the expensive nature of Helm of the Host really detracts from the tribal strategy, and I would much rather have a consistency piece in the deck like a Herald's Horn. And in terms of winning games, our commander loves to get things out of the yard to reanimate. So why not include better spells to reanimate with? Beacon of Unrest is just not doing it for us, and for that reason, it's out. And despite us having multiple cards that steal our opponent's creatures, we most often will be returning these to their side of the board, which, to me, seems rather counterproductive. I think we need sacrifice outlets in the deck, so here comes Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, and Ruthless Knave. We won't be giving back what we stole. I agree that coastal piracy is very flavorful, and you may want to keep it in for that reason. But Bidon of Thassa is the same cost for overall better effects. Speaking of better effects, Thematic Compass is not the card I would have chosen for a flip effect. Instead, how about we swap in a treasure map? This has synergy with our deck, allowing us to scry, and it doesn't take away from the flavor. And although it may seem like a minor thing, I will be swapping in a Talisman of Creativity in place of a Rakdos Signet. Our distribution of mana pips is skewed toward Dimir and Izzet colors, and as such, I like our mana rocks to also reflect this. These are the little optimizations that can make or break a deck when it's put under a lot of pressure. There have been numerous times in my Magic career where I've been unable to cast something simply because I can't meet the pip requirements to match my rocks. I now seldom have this occur because it's now a conscious decision rather than an afterthought. Now, I would go through every decision for each card in the deck, but for that, you'll have to pay $5 a month on my Patreon. I'm just kidding. I don't have a Patreon. Teferi's Time Twist and Essence Flux double as protection and repeat ETB effects for our commander. Deadly Dispute can be used to sacrifice our opponent's creatures. An offer you can't refuse and Arcane Denial are more reliable to cast in a 3-color deck than the double pip counter spells. Raise the Palisades is a one-sided board wipe. Buried Alive tutors up our best creatures immediately to reanimate. Distant Melody is often more than 4 cards for only 4 mana. Kindred Discovery is a powerhouse in tribal decks. And yeah, that's the list pretty much. Chatgpt may be getting smarter. The deck choices this time around made more sense. The includes weren't just good stuff or win more like the last list. I think that we may have a thriving competition on our hands for future episodes. But for now, I think that we've pretty much crushed it. I was able to keep the deck cost the exact same while fixing synergy issues, adding in key powerhouse cards that were missed, and also fixing the mana based, which I didn't mention directly in the video. What's more, it's very clear that this deck could be converted to a budget deck with the snap of the fingers. There are a few select cards that make up the bulk of the budget here, like the fetch lands, shock lands, Triome, and a couple of the added creatures. You can easily spend 50% or less and have a fantastic time committing heinous crimes on the high seas. If you have recommendations on which deck I should challenge ChatGPT to make next, leave a comment down below. If you want to support me and what I'm doing with the channel, the best way is to subscribe. Your subscription goes a long way to ensuring the future health and performance of the channel. This also means that you get notified first upon my new releases and can get access to my custom deck lists as soon as possible. I've been Kyle, and I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe. The sounds, they permeate into my deepest thoughts. Creaking, snapping, biting. Blood runs, blood tells. The lost caverns of Ixalan await us. Our mechanical guides will not be stopped. We are instruments to them, destined to sail onward despite savage protest and even more savage repercussions. I've learned to internalize my thoughts. Never speak out. We are now nothing more than legends of old. A ghost crew, but unable to die. The sounds. They're returning. We're close now. Can you hear it?